Well, hello, everybody. We're going to be looking at the soccer landscape through the eyes of four of the top players in our country. They are Volkswagen ambassadors, two on the women's side, two on the men's side. My name is Glenn Crooks. I'm the former women's coach at Rutgers University, still a coach at Players Development Academy here in New Jersey, and I'm the host of the Coaching Academy on SiriusXM FC. So with me here today, what a privilege. First, Crystal Dunn, Portland Thorns, and the U.S. Women's National Team. Kelley O'Hara, Washington Spirit, and the U.S. Women's National Team. U.S. Men's National Team and RB Leipzig midfielder Tyler Adams. Or is he a midfielder? Is he a back? We're going to ask that a little bit later on. And then Jordan Morris, who is with the Seattle Sounders and also the U.S. Men's National Team. Well, thank you all so much. I think a bit of this is going to be reviewing the year, what you went through, how you handled it, some of the different things you did as athletes, and some of the obstacles, and then look to see what's ahead for 2021. Jordan, I want to start with you because it was just about a year ago today when the first coronavirus victim was actually in your part of the country, in the state of Washington. That was in January. And then as things unfolded, we learned more and more. Can you take us back to that time and when you feel like maybe it first impacted you, the players, or maybe your community?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, it's awesome to be here. So thanks for having us. And yeah, it was definitely a really scary and obviously very sad time here. It hit a nursing home pretty hard, and I think it really kind of made it feel real for everyone in Seattle, and kind of put into motion everything that's happened throughout the year. So I think really it was, we'd heard of it before, but when it hits so close to home, it definitely makes it feel really real. And I think that realization of staying home and staying safe hit pretty quickly after that. So.
And Jordan, your situation is a little more unique and threatening. You have type 1 diabetes, and just reading from something, it's one of the 7 underlying conditions that pose great risk for severe illness from COVID-19. So I imagine that you've been as cautious as any of us.
Yeah, for sure. I think having diabetes is a little bit more of a risk, and so just taking every precaution very seriously and trying to stay as safe as possible. But really for me, it just shows that there's a lot of people out there that are really at risk, and that this would obviously be really bad if they ended up getting COVID. So I think for me, it was just a case of understanding that fact and really trying to be safe for myself, but really more importantly for others as well.
Can you just review a little bit of what you have to go through in order to be safe for your training, for your games, how you manage that?
In terms of a diabetic, or for?
Yes, in terms of a diabetic, and then especially, in terms of diabetic, but then, again, being so cautious.
Yeah, definitely. So as a diabetic, I just have to make sure that my blood sugar is in the right spot going into trainings and going into games. So it's a case of just managing what I eat and counting how many carbs I have, and give myself insulin to try to make sure going into a game, especially, but going into training, that my blood sugar is in the right spot. So I've had it since I was 9, and so it's just kind of part of my life now. Something that I deal with, but yeah, on top of with COVID, there's nothing else I really do on the diabetes side of things. It's more just taking those extra precautions every day to stay safe, and again, for myself, but also for others out there too. So.
Yeah. So Crystal, we don't always understand what everybody is going through. It's all kind of individual. How is it for you? When do you remember it being, something, because it's kind of your off season. So when did you remember it being impactful?
Yeah, so Kelley and I had just gotten done with the She Believes tournament. So for a long time, we knew COVID was, existing, but we didn't know that it was in the US. So of course we had our She Believes tournament. There were 20,000 people in the stands. And then I remember we all flew home, and when we all landed, that's when the world was shut down. So it kind of just hit us hard because we had just gotten off this tournament win and, came back to our markets, and then we didn't know what was next. So it was definitely scary. It was one of those things where for weeks you were just like turning on the news, trying to get more information and educate yourself on what's going on, because I feel like the message kind of got blurred all across the world of how serious this virus was. So I think it took a lot of people individually to really seek information and try to prepare themselves the best way possible.
Kelly, was it clear to you how serious it was at first, or did it take a little time?
No, I mean, like Crystal said, we were in She Believes camp and the tournament, and we, like she said, played a game. I think we were in Dallas or Houston or somewhere, maybe somewhere. 20,000 fans in the stadium. And after the game, Kate Markgraf, our GM, came into the locker room and told us that April camp games had been canceled. And I remember asking her, like, oh, well, can we still have camp? Because in my mind, I'm thinking we've got Olympics to prepare for, like hopefully this isn't something that is going to be long term. Nobody, like Crystal said, this was a kind of an education piece that everyone had to take on individually. And none of us really understood the enormity of the situation, I think. But then once we got home, I live in DC, things were shut down very quickly. And then it kind of became like, okay, this is going to be our reality for a while. And I think it still took me a week or two to realize like nothing's happening for a good amount of time, because I was still trying to stay fit, stay training, stay very focused on potentially playing in the Olympics. But then, as things ramped up pretty much exponentially, everybody, I think, started to realize, all right, this is going to be something like we've never seen before.
And She Believes, that was the first weekend or second weekend of March?
Yes. So it was the first week and a half of March. I think the last game we played was on March 11th. And I think that was a Wednesday. And by the next Monday, everything was shut down.
Wow. Well, Tyler, your experience is different than these three just because you're in a different part of the world. And the one thing we know about where you are playing in the Bundesliga with Leipzig is that was the first professional league to I hope I'm not forgetting the NWSL Challenge Cup here, but as far as the first European league, first professional league to get back going. So can you relate your dealing with this, your teammates, and living abroad and not being able to connect physically with family?
Yeah, for me, it was definitely a very difficult situation. Like Kelly, Crystal, and Jordan had already said, I didn't quite understand the circumstances of it until it started to progress more and more. So actually, I was injured for basically the first half of the season before Corona hit. And then when we got back into the swing of games, I remember we had a Champions League game against Tottenham, and that was a huge game for us. We had won the game and moved on to the quarterfinals of Champions League. And then the following weekend, all the leagues were shut down. We had heard from around the Bundesliga that we might be able to progress without fans, but no, all the games were canceled. And little did we know that it would be for the next couple of months that we weren't going to be able to participate in games, in training. I wasn't going to be able to see my family, and basically just how that whole situation would progress was a complete question mark. So for me, I remember waking up, the morning after that Champions League game, and I had my cousins here, and they were like, they woke me up in the middle of the night, and they were like, I have to go home. And I was like, what do you mean you guys have to go home? Like, what's happening? And they were like, yeah, well, Trump might raise a travel ban from anyone coming from Europe that we might not be able to get back into the country. And I was like, yeah, well, I guess you guys have to go then. And yeah, it just happened really quickly. So, now in a fortunate situation, we were, one of the first teams around the world to be able to start training again with many, safety precautions, wearing a mask, social distancing, all these different nuances that are now normal to our everyday lives. But yeah, it just progressed in a quick situation, and we had to adapt on the fly.
Tyler, your family in New York, so how often have you been able to see them, or have you? What's that been like?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I haven't seen them in like 8 months now or 9 months, which has obviously been, difficult. But for the safety of everyone, I'm able to travel home, but it just doesn't really make much sense because when you get back, having to quarantine and not knowing if you have the virus and how difficult it is to get tested, it's better to obviously keep my distance right now at the moment. They're going to be able to get the vaccine soon, which is going to be nice. My dad's a teacher. My mom works at home, so they're going to be kind of the first line to get the early stages of that, which will be nice. So I'm excited when I have the next opportunity to go home to see my brothers who are at college, and then obviously my parents as well.
Right, Kelly, you brought up and all of you're athletes, so this hits, and all of a sudden you're not able to have the same workout routine, which I'm sure is you guys are like it's something you do on a daily basis. Being athletes at your level, it's part of the job, but it's also part of your drive. So Kelly, let's start with you. What were some of the things that you were able to do individually, since you weren't at first weren't able to be around teammates to to keep your fitness, to keep sharp? And then we'll hear from everybody else.
Well, it definitely isn't easy. Like there's nothing, you can't replicate a team environment. Like nothing's better than being able to be with a team. And I think most athletes will say like training on your own kind of sucks most of the time just because you're just grinding away by yourself. But that was the reality. There was no team training, there was nothing. So for me, I bought a road bike because I was like, I'm not going to just pound away on this track that I'm like kind of sneaking onto and like on this turf field in the middle of the city. So I bought a road bike, and because everything was shut down, the roads were pretty much open. So I kind of used that to keep my endurance, keep my fitness, kind of low impact, but still be able to do it. And then I also borrowed weights from my trainer in DC and had to like go downstairs and open the trunk and take it out of the parking deck onto the parking deck and lift weights in my apartment's parking deck. So that's what I was doing.
Wow. Jordan Morris, how about yourself?
Yeah, similar. I think, like Kelly said, training on your own is just not nearly as much fun or as productive, I don't think. So I think the team did a good job of trying to get us to work together a little bit in terms of doing Zoom sessions a couple times a week, where we do workouts at home, doing squats on the couch or off the couch and things like that. So that was interesting. And then they would send us runs that we had to do as well, and we kind of uploaded them to an app that they could see. So it was great to still be engaged in some way, because being so far, from seeing your teammates, you miss that camaraderie. So being able to see them every once in a while was great.
So Crystal, I don't know if you were on Zoom calls earlier in your life, but that became a big part of the workouts, the connection. Tell us about your experience with that.
Yeah, Zoom is a big part of everyone's life now, which is totally fine. It's a great way to connect. I think obviously everything is now virtual, which to be fair, it needs to be. But like Jordan and Kelly both touched on, just like being by yourself was very, very difficult. But I do think being able to hop on Zoom calls with like family members and like connect in that way really kept like the hope alive in a sense, and made you feel like, even though you're far away from your family, you can still connect, and teammates as well. And you could just still connect and feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Kelly can contest. We had a lot of Zoom calls in the very beginning with our national team coach and obviously all the players. And it was a little overwhelming in the beginning. It was like every week it was like, get on the Zoom call. And I was just like, okay, all right, click, I'm on. And I just think over time, I think we started to realize that COVID isn't going away. So I think then the Zoom calls kind of slowed down a bit, which I was a little happy about. But I think, yeah, as long as there was a way to connect and really just help each other and lean on each other during these tough times, I felt like it was a necessity for everything to be virtual, obviously.
Can you take us into one of those Zoom calls with the national team coach and give us some specifics as to what you would do?
Yeah, some of them would be just strictly film, just going over clips from previous games and just, talking tactics. And, that was very normal. Obviously, that's what we normally would be doing in camps. And then a lot of them were team building Zoom calls, which was really great. It was a great change up of not just thinking only about soccer, but culture and how we can build culture and make it stronger in our environment. So it was definitely a good blend of talking tactics, but then also talking about the behind the scenes of building culture and just creating an overall strong team.
Well, a lot of it has had to deal with adversity. And I wanted to ask each one of you, because I think, in my time coaching and learning more about the profession and having children myself, you talk about adversity and how you respond to that, how you deal with that. I wonder if each of you could just take a moment and think back to what you think the most adverse moment in your life was and how you dealt with it and how you got past it. What were some of the key factors? Jordan, could we start with you?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, in terms of my career, the most adversity that I've had to overcome is I tore my ACL 2 years ago now. We were playing a Champions League game in El Salvador, and I remember at the end of the game was running towards goal and kind of got my foot caught in the turf and just knew right away. My dad's actually an orthopedic surgeon, so he explained to me all the time what happens when someone tears their ACL. So I've known for a while, so I kind of knew exactly what it was. He's actually the team doctor for the Sounders, so he ran out on the field and kind of did all the checks. But I knew.
Did he do the surgery?
He didn't do the surgery, no.
Okay. All right.
Someone else did the surgery, yeah. So, yeah, I don't think he wanted to, or I don't know if he's able to do that one actually. So, but no, it was obviously a challenging moment because, like I said, I kind of knew all the information behind it, knew the recovery time, the recovery process. But I think I've come back from that injury a much better player, and I think why is kind of a change in mentality. Like going into that time, obviously, I love to play soccer. It's always what I dreamt to do, and being able to play for the Sounders and with the national team was amazing. But I think I was taking things for granted a little bit, and I would go to training some days and feel a little burnt out and, maybe wish I wasn't training or something like that. But during that recovery process, I missed playing soccer so much. I missed being on the field. I missed being with my teammates, and it gave me this whole new sense of appreciation for the game and appreciation for what we get to do every day for a living. I mean, being able to play soccer as a living is a pretty unique and special thing. So I think coming back with that new sense of appreciation for the game and never taking a training or a game for granted, and just I really came back with a new fire because being away from the game for a year, you miss it so much. So I think a combination of all those things, just my mentality has shifted since coming back, and I think it's honestly helped me become a better player. So,
well, when you coach this game long enough, you're going to have a number of athletes that go through this, and you also try to tell them, hey, sit, watch the game, study, and I have had athletes that have come back and they've been better players. Like they'll do something. I said, where'd you come up with that? Oh, well, I watched, so-and-so. Did you have that sense as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think I was, I watched more film and was just so excited to get back and to get better as a player. So yeah, for sure. I think when I was out, I was watching a lot of games and itching to get back on the field.
Yeah. Crystal, how about yourself? Adverse moment and how you dealt with it?
Yeah. Well, I have one that I feel like I kind of talk about a lot. So I think I'll talk about one that I feel like I'm constantly still going through, and that's playing multiple positions on two different teams is something that has always been a challenge for me. And even though sometimes I may make it look like it's an easy task, it's really, really difficult. And every single year I step into the NWSL or play for the national team, I have to really, not overwhelm myself with the idea that I am playing two different roles, but kind of almost simplify my game to the idea of, it's just soccer. It's the same game, regardless of where you are on the pitch. And I think I'm still working on it. It still is an overwhelming task at times, but I think it's something that has made me a better player. It's made me appreciate the game more, knowing that I see the game from multiple angles and have different perspectives of the game. But it is definitely not an easy challenge, wanting to be your absolute best in the NWSL, being the 10 or being a forward and assisting, scoring, that kind of stuff. But then also being the very best outside back you can possibly be in the world on the national team. So that is something that I'm like, yeah, it's great, it's awesome, I'm growing, but I'm like, oh man, it's so challenging, and it's, you know, makes me want to pound my head up against the wall at times. But so yeah.
Crystal, you're crushing it.
Cal, thanks, love. You're
Well,
so
Kelly's nodding her head during all that because, you know, she was a Herman Trophy winner, scoring all those goals for Stanford, and now she's a fullback. Right, Kel?
That is true. That is true. Although I will say, yeah, I did kind of have that same feeling that Crystal had for a bit in the NWSL, where I was playing outside back. Sometimes I'd play outside mid, and then I was playing outside forward for my old club team at Sky Blue for a couple of years. And now I thankfully have found myself just at outside back, which is a bit better. I can attest to that it's like much better to just play one position sometimes. But again, Crystal's crushing it. She makes it look easy, and it's because she's that good. So
thanks.
Versatility. Coaches love versatility, right?
They do. Absolutely.
You know, and Tyler, versatility. So I'm going to go back to you. I'm going to get back to you, Kelly, about adversity. And Tyler, I want you to address that too. But I don't know how you feel about, like, a lot of people made a lot about you playing right back under Greg Berhalter for the one game you played for him, right? And then the other day you started at fullback for Leipzig. So it kind of brought back these right back memories.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I play a different position every game. I mean, and in Leipzig, it's like our coach is known for his tactical ability and how he sees the game. And even, you know, last game I played, yeah, like you said, fullback. But if you watch the game, then defensively, I'd play the number 6. And then with the ball, we'd play 5 in the back, and I'd play as a winger. And then sometimes when we're getting pressured, 4 in the back. And then, like, it's just all over the place. But, you know, like Crystal and Kelly said, you know, it's hard to manage expectations sometimes, you know, playing all these different positions, and you put a lot of pressure on yourself. But as soon as you realize the positive, and, you know, you look at it and say, it's just soccer, I'm playing the game I love, and I'm happy to be on the field, because again, you know, versatility does bring that one positive that, you know, if you're good at multiple positions, there's a higher percentage that you're going to be playing. And at the end of the day, as long as I'm playing, I'm happy. So, yeah.
I suppose the difficulty might be that there's so much film now, so much breaking down your game, individual sessions with coaches, I would imagine, but you're really focused on a position when you're doing that, I would think. So so you're really trying to continually learn to be better at a position, and that movement, is that what makes it challenging?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for myself, I mean, most of the time in training, I am playing one position. I'll play a number 6, and then a lot of times when we have injuries, I'll play right back and fill in. And at the end of the day, you know, as long as I have a smile on my face and I'm going out there and doing what I love, then I'll be happy at the end of the day. But yeah, breaking down video, finding ways to improve and develop, you know, a lot of that depends on the coaches and helping me to understand my role within the team. So as soon as the communication is clear and I understand my role, I think it's easier to develop for sure.
So Tyler, how about can we get back? We won't call that an adverse moment for you, this versatility. You have to come up with something different. But can you think of something and how you moved forward from it?
Yeah, nothing crazy. I mean, it's very similar to Jordan. I didn't miss a whole year or tear my ACL. But when I first arrived in Leipzig, I remember I played so many games right away, and, you know, I was on fire, and I was like, wow, you know, this is the best thing ever. You know, when you're on such a high, and you're flowing with confidence, you don't really ever look at what could possibly, you know, ruin that flow of energy and all the positives. So I remember after our Pokal final against Bayern Munich, I went on vacation. I came back for the new year, excited to work under a new coach, and I got injured. And it didn't seem like anything crazy at the time, just an adductor injury, but it was one that just continued to reoccur. So I remember every 6 weeks I would come back and I'd hop in a training session. I'm like, oh, I'm ready to go. And then 2 days later, I'm like, the same pain and soreness is coming back. And, you know, at a certain point, you get so down and negative, and, you know, you start to dwell on certain moments that you know, you never thought about in your career. And you're like, why is this happening to me? And, you know, being alone as a 19-year-old in Germany, you know, not having my family around to support me, which maybe when I'm in New York and playing for the Red Bulls, you know, when you have your family around, you kind of forget about, you know, some of these, you know, negative moments that are going on. But, you know, like Jordan said, you know, once I came back and I was able to start playing again, you realize that sometimes you do take it for granted. And, every day that I'm on the pitch now, it's, a blissful moment to be out there with my teammates, play in front of fans again, hopefully one day at this point. But, just remembering all the moments that made you enjoy the sport that you love so much.
Well, we're here with the Volkswagen ambassadors, Kelley O'Hara, Crystal Dunn, Jordan Morris, and Tyler Adams. And Kelley, I reserved the last spot for you in terms of adversity. Is it an injury story for you, or is there something else?
I've definitely had my fair share of injuries, knock on wood, nothing happening anytime soon. Stay healthy. But I would say mine came from the 2015 World Cup. I was part of that roster, went to Canada, and at that point, I'd been on the team for a bit and really felt like, or hoped that I would get some minutes, get into some games. And 3 games into the tournament, hadn't seen the field, hadn't been subbed in, nothing. And that started to weigh on me, just because I was like, oh, I'm at this, the pinnacle of my career, right? I'm at the World Cup where everyone dreams to be, but I'm not playing, and that's not realizing this goal that I have for myself. And it was a really hard time because I wanted to be the best teammate possible. We were obviously there for a reason. Like, we all wanted to go as a team win. And at the end of the day, for me, playing or not playing, like, if my team's winning, I'm going to be all in. So I had to figure out how to kind of mentally position myself and approach my role as a support player, but then also be ready for when my number got called and got subbed in, or potentially got to start. So that was a really hard time, because a lot of people look at it and it's like, oh, this must be the happiest, most exciting time, and it was really difficult. But I'm thankful that I had to go through that, and eventually got to, I think I started maybe the quarterfinal game or something. That was the first time I touched the field that tournament. But I approached each practice, once I realized, like, you're not going to get any game time to kind of get ready. If you need to go in critical moments, you need to be ready regardless. So I approached every practice like it was a World Cup final, and then also just tried to be the best teammate possible. So I think that was a really big lesson for me in how to just kind of, you have to internalize what you're going through, be a good teammate, but then also stay ready and control what you can control.
And that's being the best teammate. And Jordan, that, well, the 4 of you, you haven't experienced that much being on the bench. You guys, throughout your careers, for the most part, have been regulars, but you can really appreciate a reserve, someone not playing a lot, working hard in practice and making you better.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a team sport, 100%. And I always go back to this story when I think about a great teammate. My buddy at Stanford, one of my best friends, he was in my same class, and we actually had 2 goalies in my same class, and we were all like best friends. But you could see, so off the field, they're very good friends. On the field, they're fighting for a spot. So it's kind of a little bit of an awkward situation. But my one buddy, who ended up being the backup, he came to training every day, like Kelley said, and approached training like it was the World Cup final. He was going to push, his other friend that ended up being the starter as hard as he could, try to win his spot, but be the best teammate that he could be on and off the field. And I remember when we scored goals, everyone would come celebrate. He was the first one off the bench that would run over and celebrate with whoever scored. He was the best teammate. And I always took such inspiration from that, because I don't know if I could do that. He was just so, both on and off the field, just such a good teammate, but he pushed people every day to get better. And it was awesome. My one buddy the one that was a starter ended up leaving, and my other friend took over, and they went on to win the national championship that year with him in goal. So it was just a really cool story, and just a successful one, where if you keep working hard, keep being a good teammate, that things will work out for you. So
you can get rewarded, right, Crystal?
Yes. Yes, definitely. 2015 was also a really hard year for me as well. And I think, just as Kelley touched on, you have to internalize what you're going through and stay ready, and just try to be as positive in your spirits as possible, because, your moment can come at the drop of a hat, and it's important to stay ready so you actually don't have to really get ready. So yeah, definitely.
Do you think it's important too? Because I know players will oftentimes, if they're not playing and feel like maybe they should be, that they take it out on the coach, different things like that. They look at outside sources and rather than looking internal and just taking care of what you can take care of. You think so, Crystal?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important to just work on yourself. If you miss out on the roster, if you're not playing, whatever the challenging moment that you're going through is, I think just focus on what you can control. You can control your attitude, you control your work ethic, being a good teammate. Those are things that are within your control. And if you push those forward and execute those to your best ability, then regardless of the decision that a coach makes, you just have to be proud that you left it all out there, and you really pushed yourself to be the very best person and teammate you could possibly be.
Well, you're all imparting great advice for young players, and also coaches. They could take this to players as well. There will be a number of young people who view this or their coaches, and I wonder, when you look at preparing for events, even yourselves now in 21, but we look at the youth landscape now, and there is still, I mean, California, they're not out training. Here in New Jersey, we're training, but we can't compete out of state. I mean, what do you say, Tyler, to the players? How can they stay focused, prepare, still have fun? I mean, this, for athletes is a great challenge because it's such a big part of their life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, all of us here have obviously had to face the adversity of how COVID affected. I would say that the younger kids are probably facing it on almost even larger scale because of, we're now playing games again and we're able to enjoy doing what we love, obviously without spectators. So, if I was a young kid right now, I'd obviously be kicking a ball in the house. My mom would probably, be yelling at me nonstop. But I would just encourage everyone to, find ways to have fun, go outside, work on your skills and hone your skills so that when you are able to, compete again, you're bringing the right mentality and attitude to every training session because, throughout this all, we've all had to remain patient, and obviously patience is a virtue. And a lot of us have learned it throughout this time now. So, to every single kid out there are ways that you can get better, whether it's watching games and professionals and, learning all the little details of the games and figuring out what you can do to improve your own game. So individually, I think that there's a lot of positives that people can still take away from this so that, when they return to play, they are prepared.
And Kelly, it's not only difficult for someone of your age, but we're all social, being with our friends and, being together is such an important facet of this. So, I mean, how did you overcome some of those things, and what can you impart to our youth here? Because it's really that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I think what this year, one of the things it's taught me is I'm not as social as I thought I was. Like, I'm pretty good just hanging out in my house, like relaxing by myself. But no, I mean, I can't imagine being a kid or a teenager going through this time, especially, I mean, really anyone, but especially athletes, like Tyler said, like it's rough. They're not able to do the things that we as professionals are being given the opportunity to do, getting back, playing, being in team environments. So um, it just, thankfully, we do have this amazing thing called the internet, which is sometimes a crazy thing, but Zoom, FaceTime, all those things. Like, I had trivia nights with my friends back in quarantine, those sorts of things. So even though life is a bit different and maybe a bit slower than a lot of us are used to, there's a lot of opportunity to be had in slowing down, in connecting, and even if you're sharing time virtually, you're still sharing time. So I've found that I actually feel like I talk to my family and my friends more now than I have ever, because I'm, not as busy as I typically am. So I think that, again, trying to find the good in everything, and take that for what it is.
Any recommendations for binge watching? You go through anything?
Well, Ted Lasso, absolutely. Yes.
Surprisingly, how good was that?
It's so good. You think you're like, oh God, this is going to be cringy, you know, a bit cringy at first. And then you're like, no, this is amazing. That is my genre. I need more of that all the time. Ted Lasso. That's it.
No, we were probably all the same way, right? When you first heard about it, I was like, I'm not watching that.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's the way I was. And then so many people were tweeting out that it was so much fun and good.
Well, you
So
just
you all watched it? Everybody watched it here?
Yeah, you never know how like a soccer show is going to be, right? But it was amazing. I can't wait for season 2. Hopefully,
That's right. Everybody's waiting for season 2. Have any of you gotten on some Zoom calls with youth teams or your community or anything like that? Anybody done anything like that where you're talking to people outside of your own family or outside of your own group?
Yeah, I spoke to some college teams, I would say early on, early on in COVID, just, to provide any positive vibes I can send them and just tell them to hang in there. And even though we don't know when this whole thing will be over, just to, as we all just touched on this call so far, it's just stay ready, enjoy the things that you can do. You can still go out and find a patch of grass and get better, So I think even though you can't replicate team training, you can still work on your craft, and it doesn't take a whole lot of space to get better and get more technical and still study the games. And luckily professional sports did return, obviously. So it did at least give, a bit of an escape for a lot of people to not feel like all is lost. So I think just sports returning gave the youth some hope, I would say. And even though they couldn't be out there with their teams as the professionals can, I think it still allowed them to watch the game and be a student of the game. So yeah.
Yeah. And George, we had NWS back and MLS is back, and then MLS managed to get well, I guess you'd have to say a majority of the season, 23 out of 34 games, Jordan. What was it like though? Sometimes I would look out at the games and so much happened during the course of the year, and it really did look like maybe players were drained at certain times. Did you get that sense, whether it was your opponent, your own team?
Yeah, I think it was a challenging year for multiple reasons. Obviously, mentally, there was so much going on for people, for their families. Every day, obviously, there was a little bit or a lot of strain, and so I think mentally that could have been a big part of it. And then physically as well, games came quick. I think all of us experienced that. Games come quick in the condensed schedule. So I think definitely it was a more fatiguing year, and learning how to deal with that, and thinking about back to last year when you'd have a week between games. That seems like so long now. So I think, I was just learning how to deal with that. And I think a lot of it too was off the field, a lot more, work in the gym, injury prevention, that kind of stuff was a key focal point.
Can you pinpoint, Jordan, through all the, the different things, the Zoom calls, working out on your own, is there something that you're going to take away from this period of time that you learned that you'll now kind of include in your own workout regimen?
For me, I think I mentioned it a bit. It's the pre-work, the work to get ready for games, the work to get ready for training. Obviously, I did it before, and sometimes that work can be a little monotonous, a little bit. You feel like you don't necessarily have to do it, but I think it's so important. And again, coming back from my knee injury, after that, I felt kind of a shift in that too. Just doing whatever you can to prepare your body to be the best that it can be, going out for trainings, going out for games is so important. And this year it was, I would say even more important with games coming so quickly. So I think that's something that I took away, is just the importance of that work and getting your body as ready as it can be.
Tyler, how about analyzing your game? Do you find that maybe there were apps or things that you discovered, just different things where you get a chance to see yourself a little bit more or be more focused on that?
To be fair, I was always a big student of the game, just watching as many clips as possible and going back and rewatching games. I mean, I've probably done it more than often now, just with the downtime. And obviously, as soon as COVID hit, But yeah, just working one-on-one with coaches and learning little things and taking, criticism in the right way and individualizing, the clips and realizing what I can do better, I think is important, because over Corona, it was a huge time in those individual sessions to, really work on what you needed to, because, you have these long sessions, and then sometimes after sessions, you were like, yeah, I don't want to do any individual work. Whereas when Corona hit, it gave you the opportunity to really focus on what you needed to.
Yeah, I remember Chris Armas telling me when you were 16 years old that you get home from practice and text him and look at some clips and go over the clips with him like right away. But that's the best time to do it, right? It's still fresh in your mind.
Yeah, 100%. Chris was huge for me growing up, and still is. I still talk to him. So he definitely helped me work on the things I needed to.
Ladies, how about yourselves as far as maybe carrying something that you did during this odd pandemic time and putting it into your regular repertoire?
Chris, what you got? I'm trying to think of something good.
I honestly don't want to seem like, oh, the time that COVID hit was like a positive in any way, but I actually really think I looked at it more of as a positive than actually a negative. For me personally, I needed rest. I feel like a lot of us who play on the national team and play for club have a very short off season. So we were just coming off of a World Cup. We were then preparing for an Olympics, and there was just no time to actually catch your breath. It was just go, 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 go. And then being told that, hey, we actually have a lot more time off than we anticipated, I was kind of like, well, bummer, obviously. One, it's such a bummer that the Olympics got canceled. And then once I wrapped my head around that, I was like, okay, I can actually take my foot off the gas for a split second. And if I do want to work out individually, I can create a program now for myself instead of being told what to do. I can actually work on the things that I need to work on versus being at the mercy of a team training where you actually can't really work on all the things you want to work on. So I actually used, 2-3 months from April, I would say, leading into the Challenge Cup to be like, what do I want to work on? How can I actually manage myself throughout the week? And I think it was for the best. I felt so much fresher at the end of last year than I've ever felt in any years prior. So it was actually a really good way to really end 2020 feeling like I was way fresher heading into now 2021, which fingers crossed, Olympics obviously is going on. So that was my biggest positive, was just time off and using that time to really manage yourself.
2021. So it's big for the men and the women. Let's hit the women first. Kelly, so Crystal just mentioned the Olympics. There isn't much sour taste when you look back at the recent history of the U.S. women's national team, but 2016 at the Olympics was. So I would imagine everyone's pretty anxious. I don't know how often you talk about that or how much that motivates you, but how big is 2021 for you and your team?
Oh, it certainly motivates me, and I know it does for all my teammates. 2016 was rough. That was one of the biggest bummers of my career, I have to say, was how we performed and going out early in that Olympics. So for me, 2020, what it was supposed to be, I was so excited because I was like, all right, we can get back to this. We have a chance at another gold medal, and it's something I personally want. I want another one, and the team needs and wants another one. So when it got postponed, I was just thankful that it was postponed and not canceled. And now it's kind of like Crystal said, we all kind of had a year where we were able to focus on ourselves. We were able to figure out, what do I individually need to do to be the best for this team going into 2021? And I think that, as seen against the Netherlands, we all had very different programs going into that game, but ultimately we ended up winning and we played all right. Vlatko will say we didn't play not nearly as good as we needed to, which I don't disagree. But all of that is to say, I think this team is kind of rearing to go towards the Olympics and everything that hopefully 2021 has to offer us. So I'm very, very excited for this coming year, and that, that's not to say it's going to be smooth or easy or go perfectly as planned, but I'm excited for what potentially is in store for us.
And congratulations to both of you, invited into January camp. So Crystal, it's coming up quickly, and you got a couple of games against Colombia. So things are happening.
Yeah, things are happening. We're excited. November camp didn't feel that long ago. So it's just, it gave us enough time to really get on the same page for November camp, enjoy the holidays with our friends, families, by ourselves, wherever you were spending your holidays. And then, we're ready to go. January camp always gives us hit the ground running vibes, I would say. So it's definitely going to be an intense camp. It's a large camp where there's a lot of people pushing for positions and spots on the team. And it's a great way to kind of hit 2020 off, starting it.
Crystal, there has been so much positive commentary from people who have played for Vlatko Adanovsky on the club level and now on the national team level. What are the qualities do you think that really favor him within the team?
I think Vlatko is really easy to talk to. I think if you want to talk to him about soccer, obviously he is like beaming. He's like, yes, I study clips all day long. Yes, let's talk. But you also feel like you can approach him with really anything. And I think that's really important. Obviously, you want to keep a great relationship with your coach, just to feel like they have your best interest and they see you as not just a player on the team, but as a person. So I think he's easy to talk to. Like I hinted on, he loves soccer. He will pull up a clip of like you 10 years ago and you're just like, why do you know that I did that? 10 years ago? You weren't even my coach then. So he has a big archive of some clips. So if you ever trip in training 4 years ago, he will pull it up and expose you. So just, a little heads up with that. But no, he's been awesome. His energy is awesome. He really believes in us as a team. And it's funny because he comes in obviously after 2 back-to-back World Cup championships. So of course he's probably thinking like, this team's already very good. So what more can I do? But he will find a way to be like, nope, that's not good enough. You guys can do much better. And so it's great. He's giving us an extra push, even though we know obviously the culture and the team is very strong, but we can always get better. And that's what he's giving us, is that window to improve.
And on the men's side, Jordan, a huge year obviously coming up, and congrats to you as well. You're in January camp under Greg Berhalter. Tyler Adams is not, but European-based players do not come in the January camp, so that's the only reason he'll kind of hang in Germany. But tell us about the anticipation on your end. It looks like an interesting start to camp. Just 12 senior team players, and then the U23s are getting ready for their Olympic qualification.
Yeah, for sure. I'm super excited. I know there were some national team games last year that I wasn't able to be a part of, so it's been pretty much a full year since I've been in a camp. So I'm really excited to be back. It's always such an honor. So it's going to be a great start to a really big year. And yeah, it's really cool to see the young talent coming through. They obviously have a big year ahead too with Olympic qualifying. So kind of getting to mix with that group, I think will be great. And I think it's a big year for a lot of reasons. We have a couple big tournaments, of course, but I think all eyes for us are towards the end for sure, and World Cup qualifying starting, and we know how massive that is for us. So I think it's just going to be a big year, getting ready for that, and guys are just excited to get going.
Tyler, for yourself, I think I mentioned it earlier. I think you've only played one match under Greg Berhalter, and a lot of that has to do with the injuries. So I'm sure you're, you understand your responsibility where you are, but I'm sure you're highly anticipating that next time you can come back to the States.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, going back to the States will obviously be a good feeling after being in Europe this long. Obviously, we just had the November camp where we played Wales and Panama, so I was able to get 2 more games under Greg, and the development of the team is progressing nicely. Like you said earlier, we have the Olympics and obviously a Gold Cup this summer, and I want to be part of both of those. Obviously, being eligible to play in the Olympics still, that would be a huge honor to obviously represent the team at such a prestigious tournament. So yeah, I look forward to going home in the summer, seeing family, hopefully having a short off season before we head into 2 tournaments, and then World Cup qualifying right around the corner, something that's obviously a target on our back for that. So that should be exciting as well.
Now, don't forget CONCACAF Nations League also. It's
Yeah,
I don't think, yeah, I don't believe Leipzig will be releasing you for that. But you know, I
we'll
guess you
see.
never know.
We'll see.
Tyler, I wanted to ask you, you've got Jesse Marsh um, in the Red Bull organization, no longer with the Red Bulls, but with Salzburg. You're at Leipzig. What's it like? How do you feel about the fact you and Jesse are both over in Europe and having great success?
Yeah, it's a good feeling because he's someone that, took me in as a 15-year-old and, sat down with my family and told us, this is the trajectory we see for Tyler. This is what we want to get out of him. And as, in his career and his personal life, I don't only want to develop him as a player, but a young man. And, we trusted him with that. And, obviously when I look back at it now, I, was fortunate to have the support of my family, but he supported me in a big way in making the decision to come to Leipzig and, also sign a professional contract when I was so young. And it's all worked out. So I'm very happy to see the success that he's having. We text all the time and stay in contact. We were kind of hoping we drew each other in the round of 16 for Champions League, which would have been funny if they made it through. But yeah, an all around a great coach, a great person, and he's helped me so much in my career.
Well, I remember the style of Red Bull New York when he was there, and you were a part of that. And I took a great interest in reading The Athletic. You did a story just talking about the tactical side of things at Leipzig, and it kind of reminded me of what I used to watch at Red Bull New York. And the one statement that sticks out is that when we won the ball back, we had 8 seconds to get it into the final third or the attacking area of the field. So that's an emphasis on getting forward.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the key tactics that we have, within the whole Red Bull organization and philosophy, whether it's in the academy or the senior level, as many final third entries as we can have to just create opportunities to score goals. That's kind of what we're known for, a young, energetic team that's not afraid to take chances. And yeah, that's kind of our philosophy, which is a good one. It's a fun one to play in.
Well, the four of you, it's just been fantastic to be able to listen to your stories over the last year or so, and even before that, a little. Uh, Crystal Dunn played at Albertson on Long Island. I remember watching you play under Phil Casella. So, Crystal, because we're both metropolitan area people, I'm going to give you the last word. What do you got for us? Send us off.
Um, well, first of all, Happy New Year to everybody. I hope obviously, we step into 2021 with a whole lot of change, racial justice change, and just everyone doing their part and obviously getting rid of COVID. It's going to take everybody. I think that's what we learned in 2020 was, this is the time to be selfless. This is the time to really do what's right and be responsible so that we can all get out of this in a better way. So obviously here's to 2021 being way better than 2020, but take all the positives with it and just, let's keep moving forward and work on this change together.
Very well put. And on behalf of United Soccer Coaches, I want to thank you all so much and wish you all the best in 21, both on and off the field. Volkswagen ambassadors Crystal Dunn, Kelley O'Hara, Tyler Adams, and Jordan Morris. Thank you so much.